Hello, I'm Malcolm. Welcome to edition 2037 of the Enfield Talking newspaper. With me on the reading team for Thursday, the 11th of February 2016, are Elizabeth, Patricia, Darren will be with us later, and we have Jason on the controls, and Audrey did the editing. And the items we'll be reading are the copyright of our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent. This week's stories include the Green Dragon vanquished at last, the Enfield Road green belt is safe for now, a faulty pipe led to carbon monoxide poisoning, and there's been a probe, or there's going to be a probe, into a death at North Middlesex A&E. But before we go to the papers, pardon me, we've got one or two reminders and special announcements. Elizabeth, remind us about Enfield Vision.
Well, please don't forget that Enfield Vision and Enfield Association for the Blind will return with their monthly drop-in on Thursday the 18th of February at the Park Avenue Disability Centre, and that's from 10:30am to 12:30pm.
Okay, and Patricia, well, do you like poetry? Because Patricia's got something for you.
Yes. Would you be interested in joining the Southbank Poetry Library and receiving poetry CDs by post as part of the visually impaired service? It's quite simple. The library just needs your full name, address, phone number and email, and they can post you a membership form to sign. Once they receive this back, they can join you up and start sending you CDs. Alternatively, you can go to the library with proof of address and join up directly. You can visit the library on level 5 at the Royal Festival Hall, that's London SE1. The nearest station is Waterloo. And for more information, please contact Sarada. She's the Poetry Library Assistant on 0207 921 0943.
Enfield Talking newspaper is now available on Sonata. And Sonata is an internet radio service developed by the British Wireless for the Blind Fund, specifically for use by blind and partially sighted people. Sonata devices are available to buy from the British Wireless for the Blind Fund and require a broadband connection. Listeners who are registered blind or partially sighted, you have to be a UK resident, and in receipt of means-tested benefits, qualify for a Sonata device on free loan. And for more information, please telephone the British Wireless for the Blind Fund on 01 622 754 757. That's 01 622 754 757. Sorry, I've got another one. If you'd like to experience the Sonata in action, please get in touch with your listener's representative, who is, as you probably know, Diane de Jersey, on 020 8805 6578. And Diane is the person to contact if you have any problems or concerns you have about your talking newspaper. And as I've said, you can call Diane on 020 8805 6578. And now here's Elizabeth with the first news item.
Residents are celebrating after property developers shelved plans to build homes and a school on a stretch of greenbelt land in the borough. Fairview Homes will not be proceeding with plans to build 300 homes, a further education college and a secondary school on an expanse of greenbelt land off Enfield Road and Cotswold Way in Oakwood. The land falls within the borough's green belt, but developers are hoping they would be granted permission as the need for a secondary school could count as an exceptional circumstance. However, council planning officers have announced that Fairview Homes have backed away from the plans after being told by the Greater London Authority that there were no special circumstances that could justify building on the site. It's understood the developers will be lobbying through the local plan consultation process to have the greenbelt allocation changed to enable building on the site in future. Maria Turner, a resident of the area and one of the organisers of the Enfield Road Watch campaign group welcomed the decision. She told the Advertiser, "This is the first stage relief. We really need to see what happens with the local plan. We would ask all residents of Enfield to look into the consultation before it closes on February the 12th and have their say on keeping Greenbelt land in Enfield." She said that the campaign had been a joint effort between residents, the Highlands Ward councillors and the people of Enfield as a whole. "People in Enfield made it clear they value the Greenbelt land," she added. "We all came together for the greater good and it worked out well." Ward councillor Glenys Vince said that she welcomed the good news but warned, "We still have a fight on our hands. We will now be urging all local residents to engage with the local plan review process and make sure the council doesn't cave in to the pressure and reallocate this land as suitable for development."
A campaigner who has battled for more than a year to protect a derelict former pub from property developers remains determined, even as council chiefs look set to approve plans for the site. Mike McLean has fought to save the Green Dragon on the corner of Green Lanes and Vickersmoor Lane in Winchmore Hill from being turned into flats by a property developer who bought the site last February. After 2 failed bids to secure asset of community value status for the pub, which has existed on or near its current site since 1726, Mr McLean and his fellow campaigners were devastated when they saw developers had submitted a planning application for the site in October last year. In a paper set to be presented to the Planning Committee this week, officers recommend that council chiefs give their stamp of approval to the plans to build 7 3-storey, 3-bedroom townhouses, 2 2-bed flats and a 2-storey extension, which will be reserved for a new shop on the site. The report states, "The proposed development would contribute to meeting the need to increase housing stock in the borough and provide a retail unit that would help promote the vitality and viability of the wider Winchmore Hill shopping centre, provide jobs and contribute to the local economy. The development would not significantly impact on the amenities of nearby residential properties, detract from the character and appearance of the surrounding area, or give rise to conditions prejudicial to the free flow and safety of traffic on the adjoining highways." However, Mr McLean, who lives in Winchmore Hill, is adamant that plans to build houses near an already congested, narrow and inaccessible road would amount to an utter disaster for the whole area. "I will be making a deputation to the Planning Committee," he told the Advertiser. "There is still hope. Andy Milne, a Conservative councillor for Grange Ward, who has been helping with the campaign, has said that it's not unusual for councillors to go against officers' recommendations. The area is already overdeveloped. Vickersmoor Lane is far too narrow for the HGVs and lorries that will be needed during construction, and with the Cycle Enfield scheme, no vehicle will be allowed to turn left up that lane. It will be chaos."
A young woman from Winchmore Hill was just 5 weeks into her dream job of teaching English to school children in China when she was found dead in her flat, an inquest heard last week. Recording a narrative verdict following the death of 22-year-old Francesca Dingley of Hadley Way on February the 10th last year at her home in Chengdu province, North London coroner Andrew Walker ruled that the cause was carbon monoxide poisoning. At the hearing on Thursday, Mr. Walker said that a pipe that was supposed to siphon carbon monoxide from the water heater away from the flat was so badly installed that copious amounts of the toxic gas leaked into the flat, killing Francesca, a former student at Dame Alice Owen's school in Potters Bar, and leaving her flatmate Emily Flaherty in a coma. The inquest heard that Emily had told investigators, while she was still in hospital recuperating, that she'd tried to have a shower the night before her friend's death. Because of the faulty boiler system, the women would have to run the tap in the kitchen to get hot water in the shower. However, on this particular night, Emily had accidentally left the tap in the kitchen running. As water was pumped from the boiler, the poisonous gas leaked out into the whole flat, silently seeping into Francesca's small room close to the kitchen and spreading into Emily's room further down the corridor. Recording his verdict, the coroner said, Francesca Dingley died as a result of leakage of carbon monoxide gases from a water heater that had been left running during the night. Carbon monoxide escaped into the residence as the pipe was distinctly larger than the hole cut in the window for it. Chrissy Dingley, Francesca's mother, spoke up to stress that she would like it recorded that her daughter's death was nothing whatsoever to do with the water being left running. She urged the coroner to make it clear that Emily was in no way at fault for her daughter's death. The coroner agreed and said if it had been the right size hole in the glass window for the pipe, then it would have been fine. He said that because of the badly fitted pipe that was crushed into a very small hole in a glass window with gaps left around the pipe, however long the water would have been running, the gas would have escaped into the residence. Although still visibly shaken by the grief of losing Francesca, the family have decided to launch a campaign on raising awareness on the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning. From the briefcase he was carrying, Mark, her father, produced a small light device, a travel carbon monoxide alarm. It's such a simple thing, and it could save your life, he said, showing the gathered journalists how light the alarm is. Chrissy explains that in the wake of her daughter's death, she urged her friends to be aware of the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning. A son of one of my friends was going on holiday to Croatia, and he took one of these with him, she said. He put it in the apartment he was staying in with 10 other people, and one night it went off. We have to take something from losing her, and if it can help other people, if it can save other lives, then that's something. The Conservative MP for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows, is championing the Dingley family's cause in the Houses of Parliament. In a bid to raise the profile of Mark and Chris's campaign, Mr Burrows has written to the Foreign Secretary, Phillip Hammond, to request a meeting with the Dingley family so that lessons can be learned to avoid future tragic deaths. He's also lobbied the government to update the Foreign Office's advice about the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning for people travelling abroad.
The NHS body overseeing a crisis-hit hospital has promised that investigation following the death of an A&E patient would result in improvements. Sarah Price, Chief Officer of Haringey Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, said an emergency meeting with senior staff at North Middlesex University Hospital was planned for next week to discuss failings in the hospital's casualty department. A CCG report leaked to the Enfield Independent revealed a patient had died in December 2015 despite being monitored by A&E staff. The report placed the blame for the tragedy on serious failings of management and care. Ms Price said, "The death of this patient is subject to full investigation, and the lessons that need to be learned for that will always be publicly available. A risk summit is taking place next week where further action will be agreed. As a governing body, we are working very closely with the Trust. A lot of things have improved in the past 6 months, and hopefully that improvement is going to continue." The leader of Enfield Council has written to the hospital and the CCG with its concerns. Among the issues highlighted in the leaked report were that North Mid's A&E department had the lowest public recommendation level in London, and that there was no clinical director in charge of the casualty department. Jenny Williams, executive nurse for Haringey CCG, said the investigation was being done by a selected specialist consultant and hoped it would be completed earlier than the normal 60 days. She added, "Throughout this ongoing investigation, we've been in close contact with the hospital's director of nursing and have been meeting with the patient's family regularly. We will move forward from this leak. It's absolutely right that we come together, and it's necessary as we have to protect public safety."
One of the men involved in the £14 million Hatton Garden jewel heist has claimed the mystery man known as Basil, who let the gang into a vault brimming with jewels, is an ex-policeman. The hunt for Basil featured on Monday's edition of Crime Watch on BBC television, when the head of the flying squad, Detective Sergeant Craig Turner, revealed new information and images. So far, police have recovered £3.7 million worth stolen from the jewel vaults and are also appealing for help to find the missing gems. In a letter to Sky News, one of the ringleaders, Danny Jones from Enfield, claimed that Basil recruited him to the gang, which made off with millions of pounds of jewellery, cash and bullion last Easter. Police have offered a £20,000 reward to help them convict Basil, who is still on the run. He was spotted on CCTV helping the gang and was filmed carrying a black bin bag over his shoulder, perhaps to obscure his face from the camera. Jones of Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park, told Sky News, "Basil was the brains, as I was recruited by him. He let me in on the night of the burglary. He hid keys and codes throughout the building. He said he doesn't know Basil's identity and wouldn't grass on him even if he did. However, the 60-year-old wrote, I can say that someone told me he was an ex-policeman who got into security. He said Basil heard about me from a close friend on the police force, as I was arrested for a similar raid in Bond Street in 2010. He said he only saw Basil 4 times and doesn't know where he lives." Detective Sergeant Turner said Basil was very elusive to CCTV and may have been local to the area. Jones was arrested in May 2015, a month after the raid. Police had planted a bug in 2 of the gang's cars and placed them under surveillance. Police recovered a large amount of cash, together with gemstones, jewellery, face masks, a walkie-talkie and a book called Forensics for Dummies during a raid at his house. He was allowed out of prison, where he was on remand, under armed guard in October 2015 to show police where he had hidden pouches containing jewellery in a family plot in Edmonton Cemetery. A week earlier, police recovered more jewellery from a nearby plot connected with Jones' family. Jones admitted his role in the jewel heist and is due to be sentenced at Woolwich Crown Court next month. Detective Constable Jamie Day of the Flying Squad told the Crime Watch programme that Jones was an organised criminal who brought his skills as a fitter to the gang. His fellow ringleader and Enfield resident, Terry Perkins, 67, from Heen Road, who also pleaded guilty to conspiracy to burgle, will also be sentenced at the hearing, which starts on March the 7th, together with 4 other gang members. Another Enfield man, self-employed plumber Hugh Doyle of Riverside Gardens, was found guilty by a jury at Woolwich Crown Court last month of concealing, converting or transferring criminal property. He will be sentenced at the same hearing. Perkins' daughter and son-in-law, both from Enfield, are also awaiting sentence after entering guilty pleas to conspiracy to conceal, convert or transfer criminal property. Terry Robinson, 35, of Stirling Way, and Bren Walters, 44, of Manor Court, will be sentenced at the end of March.
Shoppers hunting honey produced from hives in the borough, or jams and chutneys churned out by budding bottlers, will have to look further afield for their produce after a market announced its closure. The Sunday market in the Palmer's Green car park, which sold locally grown fruit and veg, has folded after traders failed to cover their costs week after week. Anita Correa, who runs Anita's Cafe on Platform 1 of Palmer's Green Station, took over the running of the market in March last year. However, despite being given space for stallholders on the pavement outside the job centre in Station Road, Palmer's Green, and attracting a dedicated band of loyal shoppers, Anita explains that it just was not enough to keep the traders coming back. It was a good thing for the community, Anita told the Advertiser. Losing it has made me feel quite sad. I am disappointed. She said that the traders and organisers had done everything possible to publicise the market, but residents in the area had not made regular visits, so despite their loyal fans, the market was just not sustainable. It's a shame because people should want to support their local enterprises and should want to buy local produce, but the traders could not continue to keep turning up if they were not selling enough, she added. However, Anita remains upbeat and will focus her passion for supporting local producers from her cafe in the station in Alderman's Hill.
A church youth club, popular with generations of teenagers in Enfield in the 1950s and 60s, may be gone, but it most certainly hasn't been forgotten. A search has been launched for former members of St Giles Church Youth Club excuse me, so that they can be invited to a special reunion. The church stood close to the junction of Bullsmore Lane and Great Cambridge Road, Enfield, but no longer exists, having been demolished in the late 1960s. But the club it ran for the area's teenagers holds fond memories for many who attended, and several ex-members, now aged in their 70s, have kept in touch and occasionally meet up for lunch. Now they're holding a big get-together on Wednesday, February the 24th at 1 p.m. at the Lion and Lamb Inn in Stortford Road in Little Cranfield near Takeley, Dunmow, Essex, and want as many former members as possible to go along. The youth club was a great place for having fun with your pals and for meeting girls, said retired furniture shop retailer Bob Shears, who is helping to organise the reunion. I met my first wife there, and present at the forthcoming reunion will be 3 married couples who each met their partners at the club, having been wed for 54, 55 and 56 years respectively. Remember, this was all before internet dating or Facebook. The club acted like an introduction agency, added Bob, who used to live in Great Cambridge Road before moving to Bournemouth and then retiring to Ayrshire, Scotland. He will be travelling down for the reunion and is looking forward to sharing memories and meeting old friends. The church used to have an altar at one end and a stage at the other, and every year youth club members would put on a show or concert party for old folk, he recalled. Activities included table tennis and dances, and I remember tape recording Pick of the Pops from the radio and dancing to Elvis, Cliff Richard, Tommy Steele and Joe Brown, among others. Anyone who used to belong to the club can contact Bob on 07941 44 4461. That's 07941 quadruple 461, or email him via, and this is lowercase, bob.shears@hotmail.com.
An Enfield teenager who underwent a brain operation had a wish come true when she got to sing a duet with her favourite pop star, Ollie Murs. Denisa Alia met her idol through the Rays of Sunshine Children's Charity, who makes dreams a reality for seriously ill youngsters. The 19-year-old was diagnosed with an aggressive brain tumour when she was 12 and underwent gruelling treatment, including a 10-hour operation at Great Ormond Street Hospital to remove it, followed by 6 weeks of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And her courage in undergoing further treatment and hospital checks in the years since was rewarded last week when a white stretch limo picked up Denisa and her mum, Ilbere, from their home in Jarvis Avenue, Freezywater, and drove them to the Amber Hotel in Charing Cross, where she met her idol. Ollie, who shot to fame after coming runner-up on TV's X Factor in 2009, has been an ambassador for the charity since 2012. She asked Ollie to sing his #1 single, My Heart Skips a Beat, as it helped her get through some very tough and painful times during her treatment. She said, I asked him to sing the song, and he got me to sing with him. I was really happy. He said I must be his biggest fan. It was probably my only opportunity to meet him. He made me really relaxed. I was pleased to do my best and have fun. Ollie spent time talking to Denisa and the other children who'd gathered to meet him. Ollie said, I feel honoured to be someone's wish, so it was an absolute pleasure to meet Denisa and her family and spend time getting to know them. Ilbere added, we will never forget this experience. We'll remember it for the rest of our lives. Denisa was so happy, and she really enjoyed the day. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Rays of Sunshine, for organising Denisa's wish. Denisa still has checkups 6 years after her treatment finished. They said there was a chance I could die in surgery or be completely paralysed, she said. I just think about cancer as a little blue cold. She said the support of her mother and her father, construction worker Hilmi, sister Rosetta and brother Rosette, had helped her cope with her illness. The former pupil at Lee Valley High School in Bullsmore Lane, Enfield, now spends time raising money for Macmillan Cancer Support and has completed fun runs and 10K events for the charity. She's holding a tombola and cake sale at Waltham Cross Shopping Centre in High Street on Saturday, 5th of March.
Okay, what I'd like to do now is to introduce a new reader to you, Darren, who's come to join us for the first time this evening. Darren, away you go.
The borough's education chief says she wants to meet with an academy planning a free school to make sure it provides the best education possible. Councillor Aoife Orhan, Enfield Council Cabinet Member for Education, has cautiously welcomed plans by the Wren Academy Trust to build a new school, preferably in Enfield Road, Oakwood, by September 2018. Councillor Orhan said, a big concern is free schools and academies can build anywhere, and if they build in an area with existing schools, it could destabilise things. We want to make sure anyone who wants to run a school in Enfield has a good working relationship with the local authority. Michael Whitworth, Wren's executive principal, said, we are grateful to the hundreds of parents who supported our application and helped us get approval.
A 95-year-old volunteer at a charity shop has auctioned off a gift which he bought her mother with her first pay packet. Ethel Wilson of Bush Hill Park has been helping out at Cancer Research UK charity shops for 20 years. She decided to donate the musical hand-painted miniature dressing table which she bought from Woolworths in 1931 to the charity. She said, I bought it with my first week's wages. I was working at Maynard's Sweet Factory making wine gums. She said her first pay packet at the factory in Wood Green was 7 shillings and 6p, about 37p today. She said, I bought the dressing table for my mother, Maria Jane Barnes, at the Woolworths down towards Turnpike Lane. She had a big, original, old-fashioned chest of drawers at our home in Park Lane in Tottenham, and she put it on there. She said she was having a clear-out at her home in Bush Hill Park and found the item of furniture. I'd forgotten all about it, she said. I thought we could raise some money for cancer research. Mrs. Wilson helps sorting out, pricing and cleaning bric-a-brac at the charity shop in Green Lane, Palmer's Green, and thought it would raise a few pounds. She also volunteers at another charity shop in Walthamstow in East London. Sally Figuera, who manages the Palmer's Green shop, decided to auction the donation to raise money to mark World Cancer Day last Thursday. She put it in the shop window with a display telling the story behind the miniature piece of furniture and invited bids. Ms. Figuera said, it's an absolute beauty. It's a tiny chest of drawers with a triple mirror. We sold it for £30. The shop's also running a vintage event which starts on Friday. Items on sale include vintage clothing, handbags, bric-a-brac and old books. Last year's vintage event raised £4,500. And so we've come to the end of the first half of this week's recording. If you're listening on tape, please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2. But if you're listening on memory stick, click forwards to the next track.